Hi, Saba. So good to see you. It's been so long.
Absolutely. Have loved every conversation we've had and so happy to connect again this year.
And I think you've been so busy. It's great that we've been able to get you to do this with us because I think it's extremely important, the work that you're doing. And I just wanted to talk about it. I know Women's Day should not be the only time when we should be talking to awesome women, but hey, let's do it sometime rather than not at all.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we caught you in Karachi because you travel a lot as well, right?
I enjoy traveling so much, and it really gives me inspiration to do the work that I'm doing, and it always builds more networks and connections. So yeah, it's hard to find me in one place for too long.
Yeah, that's true. So tell us, Saba, a little bit about Aurat Raaj, Raji, and the importance of using creative and engaging materials to educate and empower young women and girls.
When I started off Aurat Raj, it was just on a whim. I wanted to change the situation of women and girls in Pakistan, and not just for them, but for myself as well. I wanted to live in a Pakistan where women were appreciated for their skill sets. They were appreciated for the work that they were doing. They were given opportunities. And I saw that there was none of that happening, and the country was headed in a very, very negative direction. And I remember at that time when I was incubated, my idea was to build a blog or a vlog. Slowly and gradually, I think with the learning that I've had, we've been able to build technology products. We've been able to build a lot of workshops, a lot of different programs for women and girls. Some of the areas that we feel are very, very important are around reproductive health. I think health empowerment is something that we often forget about, and this is something that requires a lot of work in Pakistan. Just to give you one area that requires a lot of change, it's menstrual education. Women and girls stop going to work or school because they don't have the products or the knowledge to actually manage their menstruation with dignity. And this is one of the areas that I really concentrated on in the first few years of entrepreneurial journey. While I was doing that, I also realized that, I'm building products that provide menstrual education, but there's no digital literacy, there's no technology access, infrastructure, literacy. So how do I get this product across? How do I talk about menstruation? And then we had to kind of go towards digital literacy and inclusion related work as well. And then most of all, a huge audience that I think I have been concentrating on is rural audiences, which I also did not put in my circle of influence because it was so hard to reach them. And last year we started working with rural audiences, and we've already impacted over 50,000 with health education, with digital literacy programs, providing them access to data plans and technology. And we've also, really increased our partner network because of the work that we've done in rural areas. So I just realized that, nobody should be forgotten. The more you include people, the more people get connected, and the more you can actually showcase the problems that are in those areas that we've forgotten about, especially the government.
Have you faced any resistance either from the people that you've tried to educate or from potential partners or the government? Has anyone tried to keep you from doing what you're doing?
So I think the negativity or the difficulties come from all spheres. I think it happened within my own family when I started working on Aurat Raj. Just the name itself was so difficult for my family to, stomach that. What are you going to do with this? What is the idea? So it came from my own family. It came from extended family when I these stories in Liari and other places. And then the more I started working on a taboo topic like menstrual health, I remember very precisely, my sister saw my LinkedIn post and she said, if you're going to talk about this topic, please delete me from your LinkedIn. I'm embarrassed. So, it comes from that, and then it comes from other people who might invest in you. So for instance, I remember in a large conference, I went and I spoke about birth control and contraception and menstruation. And the men could not, even make eye contact with me at that time. And it was really sensitive, those topics. And I had forgotten that, the country that I'm living in, a large population is still with a mindset that is, not accepting of these ideas. So I really had to be educated on what's going on in Pakistan and what's going on here. There was a huge disconnect. But slowly and gradually, I understood that, there are sensitivities, there are a lot of cultural sensitivity, and the way that you can reach these audiences is through good partner development. Rocking up in Shahdad Court, saying that I want to do menstrual education is going to get me kicked out. But doing it through a partner like UNICEF or UNESCO or the rural networks really helped me get those, those sensitivities tackled. So I feel like it's been on many levels. And on the government level, I am really sad, and it's unfortunate that I've never had an opportunity to work with the government. I think the inclusion of these topics, the education on these topics, these products should be provided primarily by the government. They're not doing that job, but then the private sector should also step in. I feel like there's a lot of work going on in urban areas, but there's still so many communities that are forgotten and we're not paying attention to them. So that's where entrepreneurs and people who have some sort of vision where they want to make that connect, they want to provide a solution. So that's why I feel like I'm glad that there are entrepreneurs who are working on solving these problems.
So how are you? I know it was very difficult for you in the beginning. So how were you able to carry on and do the work that, that you've done over all these years? I know you mentioned UNICEF and other UN organizations, but even before that, you've had to struggle because, as you said, investors weren't interested because it was a taboo subject and people didn't really understand what you were trying to do. So how did you manage to get from there to here?
I think there was a huge problem with me as well, because I did not come from an entrepreneurship background. I had a journalism background, I had a communications background. I really had to educate myself as well. And I think over the last 4 years, I've invested in maybe long-term fellowships, residencies, programs, just to understand various areas. One was, what are social enterprises? What are impact or tech for good organizations? I had to understand what leadership for social enterprises is like. I had to understand what leading with complexity is like. All of these learnings helped me kind of find the right networks, find the right people who would believe in what I was trying to do. And fortunately, I found patient capital or impact investors very quickly on, but I did not take money from them because my idea of investment had been so influenced by, they're supposed to be horrible, they're supposed to give you these term sheets that are not going to be fair. And I had very early a lot of people who were willing to write me checks. And I was like, no. I want it from somebody who looks a certain way. It's an institution, a large institution. Only that is the kind of investment that's okay. But I felt like even, within my circle of influence, there were so many angels who wanted to be part of my journey. And when they invested their time, when they gave me mentoring and advice, as well as funding, I was able to get to a place where slowly and gradually I raised investment. And I also feel like investment shouldn't be terms. I think anybody who gives you resources or gives you connections or networks, that is also impact investing, because they are giving you something that is very valuable. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. So I feel like I got a lot of non-monetary investment as well, and that played a very big role.
Great. So can you explain to me what impact investing means to you and its importance in the context of Pakistan's growing entrepreneurial space?
Patient capital would be one way to describe it. Somebody who wants to invest in your leadership. For me, it's always been about leadership. Initially, it was about what product I'm building. Believing that maybe you're not successful in your first year and your second year, but eventually you have those skill sets, or you have that belief, or you have that vision that will make you successful. So I feel like somebody who wants to really build with you, wants to go on a difficult journey, that's impact investment. It's not an easy journey. It's not a quick journey. It has to be trust-based, it has to be patient. And unfortunately, impact investors are very few within Pakistan. And it's very difficult to find them. Of course, you have to be in the right spaces. You have to go and constantly pitch your idea, believe in your idea. But I think growing space, and I eventually want to be an impact investor as well. I have made very tiny investments at certain points. But I feel like, people who understand the need for social change are going to invest in social change. And there's a whole need for it in Pakistan.
So you've been able to build a team, you've been able to get partners on your side. How has that journey been? I mean, what did it take? And did you find that it was easy to bring people to believing that this was a necessary thing for you to do?
So there've been a lot of ups and downs in both the team journey as the partner journey. Finding people to work on this has been so difficult because mostly women are interested, girls are interested, they understand the problem of reproductive health education or product access, but at the same time, their families don't understand. So a lot of times they're like, this could impact my rishta. I can't work with you because this could impact my rishta in the future. This could, make my father not accept what I'm doing. There's so many reasons why team members have said no to me and not joined the team. However, at the same time, there were people within Pakistan who joined the team at very critical points. Sometimes they had to be, I had to, because they had bigger dreams and bigger visions to pursue. And that was also important. And that was a learning for me. And then there have been people who've stuck around for a very long time and they've really supported my work. So it's been a very, very difficult journey there as well. In terms of partners, initially, even going to a school and talking about menstrual education was difficult. The principals and the head mistresses would be like, this is the education you want to give. We will give this education. We don't want a robot to give this education. We don't want your team to give. What expertise do you come with? How is your content built? And I had to really I needed to have these answers on very well rehearsed every time, because they would ask difficult questions and often I didn't have the answers. And so we had to get our content vetted by experts. We had to make sure that it was okay for kids to use. There were no pictures that were too sensitive for them to see. So, I think the partner aspect really helped me develop myself and be able to answer difficult questions. And then I feel like, it's slow at first and then it gathers speed. So, this year is when we're seeing more and more partners come up and want to work with us. In the last few years, it was like me chasing after each one of them. And, now I'm just like, okay, let them come to me and I'll decide whether I want to work with them or not.
Yeah, no, I get that. But now that you've seen, I mean, with Raji, you've seen the response that you get from young people and how it is easier when you use tech to try and convey the kind of subject that you're talking about. What do you think is the role of tech or digital literacy in formal and informal education in Pakistan? Is it being used the right way? What more can we do to incorporate that within the learning system? Because it would make so many taboo subjects much easier, and even non-taboo subjects.
I remember one of our first products was a cartoon, and when we built that cartoon, we immediately saw that if we presented textual booklet as opposed to showed them something on screen or let's say on their phone, it really made them interested in the topic. Things have to be, we've got a youth population, they're used to technology, they're interested in it, and we want them to be interested in it because it is the future. And so when content is presented to young people in a fun and engaging way, it really makes an impact. However, our curriculum, the way of teaching, the way that our teachers engage with children is often not very engaging. It's very, very rote driven. It's not fun for kids. So I really feel there's a huge opportunity there. However, of course, building technology products or edtech products is very expensive as well. And unless we have, large scale investors willing to, build those products with entrepreneurs, it will be difficult for them to, go in that space. However, I really feel like small pilots are very important. Maybe building like a small prototype and then testing it, going back, getting feedback on it. That really helps to, not just but also to see whether somebody's willing to use your product. And I've done that several times. Like I started going to schools in low-income settlements and trying to see whether they were interested in it or not. I started doing trips to rural areas because I wanted to see what their interest might be for technology products. And I've always been fascinated how quickly people pick up on technology, how it really speaks to young people. So I feel like we really need to invest there. And we need to make technology more affordable and build the infrastructure around it. That's also very important.
Absolutely, no question about that. Very often what happens is that we who live in urban areas, or even people from outside of Pakistan, feel that we're the ones who know what is best for people in, especially in rural areas or low income areas of the country. Do you think it's important to involve such people, while we are creating products for them? Because sometimes, don't you think they know what is needed more than we do?
I think I learned because I was already like building my product and then realized when I went into rural areas that there is no internet infrastructure, there's no literacy, and that chatbot absolutely fails in so many settings. And but then there's also these opportunities to kind of pivot that and see if this is the community I want to serve and this is a product that I have, how can I kind of change it around to meet their needs. One of the ways that we try to do it is that we converted all of our content for the chatbot into audio content. And audio content could be downloaded, it could be used offline, and then we this idea of building champions within rural areas to let them actually create that audio content, because I could not be there all the time. The NGOs could not be there all the time. We had to trust in the community. We had to trust in the people that if we build their capacity, they will, lead the revolution. We don't have to be, I could be in Denmark and, we have this concept that we came up with called listening parties. They're happening every day in so many villages. And I get these videos from them and I'm excited because, that's what technology does. It allows you to be everywhere and anywhere at any time. That's what I see for the future of Pakistan as well, that, entrepreneurs can just lead the way, but then other people will, communities will lead that process forward. They will push it.
And what do you think, Saba, is the role of language? Because a lot of things that we pick up from everywhere is in English. Do you think we need to localize it in, Sindhi, Punjabi, any sort of language, Pashto, across Pakistan? Because then that makes it friendlier, don't you think?
Absolutely. This was also another learning for me that, I thought Urdu is our national language. So when we take it into rural Sindh, they will understand it. But the level of connection does not come when that's not their native language. And immediately when we tested with the Sindhi chatbot, it made such a huge impact. It really connected with audiences. We saw that they were smiling, they were engaging, they wanted to use the product longer as opposed to our Urdu chatbot. And then we also realized then we have to build a Pashto chatbot, we have to build a Punjabi chatbot. And while we were doing that, talking about the need for inclusivity, we got a project with a German nonprofit that wanted to do the same in Pakistan. And we got a chance to build their entire library in all 4 languages. And this was such a great project for us because we were on that, they wanted to kind of come along and join that journey. So I think inclusivity and, finding that point of connection is so important, and local languages are the way to do it.
And did you find that, young people in these areas, whether it's in the rural areas or in the low-income urban areas, were they interested in trying to create technology themselves as well, or did they just want to be consumers of the technology?
This is something that a lot of the self-belief in a lot of people is that we can't be technology creators, and this is something we're testing now. But if they know how to use technology, can they be content creators? And even that is very, very important. At the present time, we are starting with our digital literacy on such basic levels that they're able to use a phone, make a call, maybe social platforms. That is the level where they're at. So taking them to be technology creators, that will take time. But I do believe that content creation should come from rural areas. I've seen brilliant TikTok content coming from so many rural areas, and that makes me really happy because I feel like they are at the forefront of social platforms, and that is how it should be. It should be equitable. Everyone should be. So I feel like maybe there's a gap between technology creation, but there's definitely a potential of lots of content coming from different rural areas as well as urban low-income areas.
And do you find many more women getting involved in creating their own companies and working in spaces that were, in the past not considered women friendly? Have you seen a growth in that?
So COVID has made that change. I remember when we went in 2021, a lot of the businesses that women were running, where they were sending products to cities to sell them, these were embroidery products, work, they were all impacted because the middlemen were no longer visiting those areas, did not have the mobility to go to cities. And that's when they started thinking about how do we get a product across to different places. And I think building their capacity with WhatsApp, Facebook, that really helps them retail those products to all around Pakistan. And we worked on this on a project with a couple of NGOs, and we realized that they wanted to learn these platforms so that they could be entrepreneurs from remote areas. One project that we've done, and I think I'm very excited about, is our menstrual product line, which we're building with rural women. And this was because they had the skill set, they needed menstrual products which were not available, and we just had to basically provide them with a small seed funding for them to create that menstrual product and then retail it within rural areas. I'm still working on that project. It's a difficult project. And when we started that project, I remember when we were training women, they said to us that, everyone who's asking us what we're building in our houses, we tell them we're building socks or designing caps, because we can't tell them that we're making pads. And, from that time to now, when they're holding the product in their hand and they're taking pictures and they're excited that they made like 1,000 products, that's been such a, interesting journey for us as well. So I really believe that we have to build on the entrepreneurship skills of rural women. And unfortunately, there are no NICs in rural areas. There are no incubation centers, which leaves a huge gap that we have to also build the innovation skill sets of young people in rural areas. There's a huge opportunity there. A large portion of people live in rural areas, and they don't have those incubation centers. They don't have those acceleration centers.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of opportunities out there that we could really, the whole country could benefit from if we could just excite those young people, give them the skills that they need. But some of you are doing that. Some of us are trying to. It's not easy, but every little helps. So what's next for you, Saba?
I would go off the tangent of all the reproductive health and all the work that I'm doing. And I want to talk about really what I've ignored for the last 4 or 5 years, which is my own needs, sometimes my own mental health needs, and often, my need for joy and my need for fun, which often entrepreneurs totally forget about because they're just so like in that, I need to make it successful. I need to prove myself. I need to get revenue. I need to get funding. So you forget entirely about your own needs. And I want to spend this particular year with this idea that I want to learn how to dive, I want to learn how to ski, I want to fly a plane. All of those things that I've had on my list for so long, and this is the time for me to invest, and I've realized that when you do that, all of your other work aligns itself. It's not like you're going to forget about your work better because, you're more confident in yourself. You believe you can be in any situation, work through it. So I would say the next thing for me is adventure, like lots of adventure.
That's great. You're absolutely right. I think focusing on yourself is equally important, and it helps you with your work. Thanks really, Saba, for joining us. I just wanted to have this short conversation so that you can motivate other people into doing so much more. I think, maybe if the government or some government organizations hear what you're doing, hear the impact that has been created, who knows? Who knows? Somebody might realize that this is needed. And really, I think there are many well-intentioned people. Sometimes they just don't understand. So hopefully these conversations that I'm having with women who are creating impact across the country, maybe some of them will be able to convince them that a lot more work is needed a lot more support is needed. So thanks, and hope to meet up with you soon. I'm not going to get involved in any, airplane rides and stuff like that, but we could do some things that are fun, go to a concert or go to like Nepal. We had such a great time. So, let's do something together once things sort of quieten down as far as Corona is concerned.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and hope to be in touch and meet you in person very soon.
Okay, great. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Saba.